All right, we're here. Angela, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm super excited to be here.
So, I always like to have conversations with people who have gone through what I call the emotionally uncomfortable journey to where they were versus where they are now. And it's always an unexpected journey. There's typically three reasons why people jump into my world. The first one might be a parenting challenge. It might be their time and energy, like, how they feel burnt out, unfulfilled, all the things. Or it's usually like their career or business that is bringing them to me. But when I say parenting, that can often be not just parenting, it could be intimate relationships and partnerships, marriage, all of that fun stuff. So, which one brought you to me? And then we're going to talk about the journey when you started listening to me and the transformation. And then I'm going to ask you deeper questions because I like to pull back the curtains as well as to like what the reality is of when we are doing this work. So when I say those three buckets, which one kind of pulled you in, got your attention, and said something needs to change in my life?
Definitely the relationship piece with hubby. It was, yeah, we were not in a good place. We were fighting a lot. The horrible D word, divorce, had kind of filtered into my head and into my journal. And I knew that if something didn't change, we probably wouldn't last.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I started searching for anything out there that might help me and found your Mom is in Control podcast. And yeah, just started eating up every word and was listening. Oh my gosh, yeah, every day, sometimes multiple times a day, just to try and find something to help me get out of,
Yeah.
yeah, the chaos that I was in.
Yeah. And Mom is in Control is the old name of the podcast. And it was like rebranded in like 2021 or something like that, or 22. But t- Something that you just said that I think is really, really important. We talk about divorce or separation. Like you're in this moment of like, not this, not this. Like you're kind of at a point where you're like done. And you can see the future of like, if this doesn't change, like that was actually when I first made my first investment. When I was like, if something doesn't need to change, I can see my future. Like I can predict my future. And I often tell people, regardless of what happens in the future, the divorce that we typically want or the separation is like of the current relationship. Like it's
Mm.
not like you actually want to move away from this person. It's you just want to move away from the conflict and the pain and all of that. And regardless if you stay together or you grow apart, you do need to change. You need to evolve, right? In that relationship. So you were actively seeking support, which is number one of like, I call that a green flag of like, okay, I'm ready for change. Two is you were listening over and over and over again. Like you were hungry for the change. Like you weren't avoidant towards it. You were probably kind of pissed off that change wasn't occurring. So then you keep moving further and further. And I wanted to talk to you about the emotional freedom aspect of it because I said before we hit record, I'm like, okay, Angela, how has your life changed? You're like, well, I used to be the yelling mom. I used to feel chronically burnt out. I used to be unhappy. And there was actually a testimonial or something that you sent me one time around, it was like a message, like a typed up message of you were at work and you have a team and the team started noticing a shift in your emotional behavior. And they said this to you. One, for them to even feel like psychologically safe to bring that to your attention is one thing, and two, like, oh my gosh, I must have been a different person. And so we don't realize our energy, we don't realize our emotional energy, we don't realize how we're leading. So can you talk a little bit about like, okay, then you took the leap once you were inside of mastery, like it took you a little bit to get there, but once you got there, you were inside of mastery. When did you have that aha moment of like, oh my gosh, this isn't necessarily about everybody else or all these things that are triggering the crap out of me.
Oh, wow. Well, it definitely came on gradually, and being on the calls and listening to other ladies, get coached through the Byron Katie worksheets, and then myself, so many layers. There wasn't, I don't even know if I could pinpoint one specific time. It was just the repetition of going a little bit deeper every time, or, you know, you would, your message, it's very much, you would say things just slightly different on a call that you'd maybe touched on a previous call, and then a light bulb would go on, and I would pull out my worksheet and I would work through, the judge your neighbors, and just slowly over time I realized that, okay, like, I'm playing the victim in this role. How do I switch from that? And just even being aware, even if it was after the fact that something had occurred, like it was an argument with hubby, yelling at my kids, afterwards I could go, oh, okay, I see what happened there. And I could kind of deconstruct, like, okay, how was I playing the victim? And then how am I going to do that differently next time? So even just being able to recognize those things in myself after the fact, and then the next time it came up I would be able to just that one split second sooner catch myself, and then to a place where I no I don't I'm gonna cry, Heather. um I didn't Now looking at who I am, I don't even recognize her anymore, because I lost myself with kids and marriage and work, and I didn't know who I was. And that was actually one of my big core things coming into mastery, was to find myself again and make those deep connections with my kids and my husband. And I've been able to do that through all of the work and peeling back the layers, and definitely having to take a really hard look at my own self and my own involvement in how I got to where I was with my husband
Mhm.
and our relationships. So yeah, I can't pinpoint. It's all the work, right? It's the process, it's the repetition, the rinse and repeat.
Yeah, it's quite annoying, isn't it? Where you're like,
It really is.
yeah, people come in and they're gaining momentum and they start seeing results, and we have to like unlearn. Like it's kind of like
Mhm.
unlearning diet culture. You're like, okay, you want to lose X amount of weight. Great. But what are you going to do once you lose the weight? Like this needs to be sustainable. And it's really, I see the pressure, and I'm sure you were one of those people too, but I see the pressure people put on themselves. And I know you're a mentor now, so you see like the opposite, where you see someone coming in fresh and how scared they are, and the fear of vulnerability. And it's like people are like, oh my God, I need to get all this done in this time. And I'm like, who said? I'm like, let go, like surrender. Because when we try to control like other people, or like how fast we need to get results, or manipulate our way through something, we're actually just blocking it. Like that is not aligned with how we want to feel. So when you say to me, or when you like, I wrote this down, I wanted to find myself. Like that was a core like desire of mine when I came in here. I know that people want to find themselves. I know that people are aware that they've lost or abandoned part of themselves.
Mhm.
And whatever we need to do to buy into that, like that is part of the journey of like finding yourself, becoming who you desire to become, right? In alignment with how you want to feel. But sometimes it's moving away from the pain, and we're actually more scared of, losing our partner or losing that connection with our children. So, like, was divorce or separation like one of your biggest fears when you came in here? Like, what if this doesn't work?
Yes, it's always been a running fear for me, losing that relationship 100%. but on the same token though, like I never really thought that that would actually ever happen. It was, oh, if we like dig back some other layers, I have a fear of abandonment, which I discovered on one of our amazing calls with, I think it was Morgan. And so that deep seated fear just kind of filtrated into everything and how I would react. Like there's just, like I said, there's so many layers that you uncover in this process. And that was one. And then realizing that, and then being able to look at my relationship with Jay and apply that to, oh, this is why I'm reacting this way. Do I
Mhm.
really think that divorce is going to happen? No, but I'm reacting because of this fear of abandonment. So yes and no to that
Yeah.
question a little bit.
But isn't it cool how when you look at it from like, I have a desire for connection,
Huh.
but I have a fear of abandonment. So observing you like going through this process, your desire won over your fear. And this is where, like, when I'm telling people the difference between listening to a podcast, like being curious about change versus committed to change. Like when you're committed, and I'm sure you can agree with me, it is not rainbows and kitty cats, nor is it a perfect path. Like perfection does not exist on this path once you're committed to doing the work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I actually had to put down some like serious boundaries, which also another big pain point for me, very uncomfortable.
Mhm.
But in doing so, I was able to change the way we communicated with each other and even like with my kids too. But speaking my truth, what do I need? And that's where the change and stuff really started, the really uncomfortable stuff, right? Like having those conversations with Jay that absolutely terrified me because I'm like, oh my God, he's going to leave me. But that fear turns out was all in my head.
Mhm.
Like we are in a place now that, oh my gosh, it's magical. Like it really is. Well, okay, not perfect, but perfection.
Way
um
better.
yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about emotional freedom. Like you've showed up, I've kicked your booty one or two times, and it, I know people are like mildly afraid of me sometimes, and I'm like, listen, yes, you're like, I still am, hand raised. I'm like, this is
I
why it's
love
a
it.
community. And they're like, I am not reaching out to Heather right now because I am not in the mood for an ass kicking. But you know, the good thing is, like, yes, we all have moments where we just need to rest and relax and retreat a little bit. But I find the community, whether it's people coming in or, the mentors and coaches, everyone is like imperfect and committed to becoming their best selves without burning out, right? Like, we're
Mhm.
doing this at in a sustainable way. This isn't like there's moments where we're sprinting and then there's moments where it's like just chip away, rinse and repeat. So
Yeah.
how has your relationship, like if we're going back to emotional freedom, how has your relationship changed with your emotions in general? Like we have fear, we have worry, we have doubt, we have guilt, all the things. How has your relationship changed? What do you do now versus what you did then?
Um, well, then I was just reactive. I don't even think I recognized the emotions that I was having. I was just reacting to whatever stimulus was coming at me. Now I'm able to, oh, okay, so that's anxiety coming up. Okay, so why is that coming up right now? What's triggering? Like I'm able to recognize it in the moment, not after the fact anymore. It's like in the moment I'm able to recognize, okay, that's fear, nope, that's anxiety, or whatever emotion it is. And then I can actually stop myself and kind of figure out, okay, what's bringing that on. Or sometimes my thoughts will go a certain direction and I'm able to go, no, okay, we need to stop that thought process, we need to switch back over here, bring that vibration back up. Don't I would literally have conversations in my head and get angry at the conversation that I made up in my head, and then be mad at my husband for the fake conversation I made up. And I can stop that now. I can redirect myself. I can look at a situation from not like outside of it, but I can see more of the moving parts. Does that make sense? Like I can see his part. I can see, oh, okay, he was a little triggered there. So I'm just going to back off now, and then we'll come circle back. Or, you know what? That's his baggage and he's got to own that. I'm not going to take that on. Um, yeah, like it's just,
And this is managing energy. Like this is, like this is the superpower of learning how to manage your energy. Like, I'm not going to say manage your energy, not time, but managing, we have different energies, right? We have our mental energy, like the actual thoughts. We have the emotional energy, which kind of like moves through the body. Then we physically have physical energy, like spiritual energy. There's so many different energies, but I just visualize you as you're explaining this for those who like can't see you. You're like standing there and you're like, okay, I got this coming towards me. Like you're like watching all of these energies, like you're a ninja, just being like, and like managing it. But that's the beauty of this work.
yeah,
Yeah.
it really is. And it's amazing.
So when you hear emotionally uncomfortable, what does that mean to you?
That means, oh crap, Heather's in my head. And I need to, instead of run away, I need to run towards. I
Mm.
need to do that uncomfortable thing, because I know as soon as I lean into that, then it's gonna be easier, it's gonna be better, and I am gonna get through that to the other side of what I really want.
Yeah.
Does it always happen that way? No.
Yeah. We run away and then we run towards and we run away, we run towards.
Yeah.
Um, oh man, I had a question for you. Oh, how has your relationship changed to feeling good? So I know typically when people come in, okay, so you came in, you said I was on, like, you were very familiar with the feeling of burnout
Yes.
compared to now. How has that shifted?
Um, so burnout in general, being like, the business owner, the mom in a relationship. Now I'm able to, like, okay, I'm just gonna let that go this week. So like ETM is like my Bible. I love it. But when I'm looking at my week or my day, or because things always happen, somebody gets sick and oh, got to cancel that meeting. I'm very much more able to just let it go and not stew about it, or be oh, the perfectionist in me. I'm still a recovering perfectionist, but it's okay, like we can push that to another day. um and then I have a lot of grace with myself now. Like if I don't get my yoga in, or my workout, or I didn't drink enough water, old me, I'd be beating myself up for days. Now again, I'm able to stop those thoughts and redirect, and like it's okay, like
Mm.
we're not perfect. I have a tattoo on my arm that literally embodies the perfectly imperfect idea that, yeah, striving for perfection is not something that I do anymore. So I'm
Yeah.
just, yeah, able to release it.
You know how they say, like, well, they say, and I've said this too, but like, it's like raise your standards for yourself, right? Like, how do you want to feel? People will say, I feel so disrespected by my children or my partner or whatever. And it's like, well, how are you allowing them to disrespect you? Because we don't have respect for ourselves.
Mm,
So I remember along my journey, and I have seasons of this too, where I'm like, how do I want to feel? I want to feel joy. I want to feel abundance. I want to feel alive. Sometimes it changes. Like, my actual definition of aliveness will change, or
mm,
strength will change, or I'm like, there's always a next level for strength. And so I'm always thinking of like, how good can I feel? Like,
mm.
I can have weeks where I'm like, oh man, I'm tired. Like I had a lot to get done this week and then I got to recover, but it's coming from a place of like a healthy like fatigue rather than like I barely have anything left to give. Like I just stretched myself on a long run rather than like I can't get off the couch, if that makes sense.
Totally.
So
100.
how, like when you think of joy, receiving capacity, receiving love, how has that shifted for you?
Um, well, I'm much more able to receive love from my husband, from my kids, because I'm honestly able. You once asked, who are you in the chaos? And it's on a post-it note in my bathroom on my mirror, so I read it every day because I feel like I'm more able to be in the moment now. Whereas, it would be a beautiful moment with my husband, but I'd be like, here's my to-do list running in my head. And I'm able to, because I'm managing my energy and my time better, I'm actually able to be present in that moment, receive that love or hug or whatever it is, so much easier. And that's the one I focused on. What were the other two that you said?
No, I don't even remember what I said, but I think
Okay.
it's uh like I just heard you say like you're able to be more focused and present
Yeah.
because almost like you've let those other things go or you've learned how to manage that energy better, that emotional
Yeah.
energy, right? So
Yeah.
when people think, I don't have enough, I don't have enough, I don't have enough, I'm like, well, what is in there already? Like,
Yeah.
you don't have enough because there's a huge energy leak. So when we start to patch those energy leaks, we feel fuller, we're more present. So a lot of times it's these relationships that come to us, whether it's the partnership, marriage, whatever, or the kids, and they're triggering the crap out of us. But it truly is about like looking in the mirror, but the other person, okay, so here's my question for you. The other person, like I'm all about, yes, do your own work, focus on yourself. You can only control your behavior. But I do believe it takes two to tango, right? So there's always like the other person in the relationship too. Has your husband mentioned anything about observing a change and shift in you? And do your kids do the same thing?
Oh, so much. So, uh, it's actually it's beautiful, and I've messaged Diane a few times because the way that I speak to my kids has changed. Like I try to be the coach, and let's try some deep breathing, and when they're having their big emotions, and so when I reverse it now, when I have big emotions and I'm not maybe doing the process as best as I should, my beautiful 11-year-old daughter will look at me, put her hand on my shoulder, and go, Mommy, you need to do some deep breathing. Which, oh, you're right, I do. So we do some deep breathing together. So just having them reflect back the work that I've been doing
Mm,
is amazing. And then, yes, my husband has mentioned, that he sees the change in me, and our communication, and I'm not as reactive, and um but again, it's that mirroring back. Like I see him talking to our girls, and the way, like the verbiage and the way that I have been,
mm,
um so not, maybe not in so many words, but I'm seeing the behavior from him for
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
I love when the kids feel safe enough to call the parents out. Like when and also just to show that when we become less reactive and kind of live in a more proactive state, how they're when they see that we're off, they're like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
Rather than like being used to the yelling all the time or used to that reactive energy. Um,
Yeah.
I love this. So there's so many more questions I want to ask you. One is I am convinced, like, as a culture, like, we live in a culture that's go, 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 incredibly reactive. The societal expectations of women are so high. And to be
Mhm.
honest, the societal expectations for all humans are incredibly high. Children, men, women, all humans. And I think it's part of it is like opting out of a certain cultural standard and expectation. When we do that, we have to physically redefine our energy, our identity. Has
Mhm.
there been a moment in this process where you could physically feel yourself like letting go? Like you've kind of said
Oh,
like, "Oh, that version of me, I am not there." But do you remember that like an actual moment you're like, "Goodbye, old Angela. She is no longer here."
well, probably last February when I started archery. I think that was on. So it was like a pinnacle for me of coming back to something I did when I was young. And I don't know, I just felt like warrior woman firing off arrows. I was doing something for me and only me. My kids weren't involved. I told hubby, "Okay, I'm checking out for the evening. Bye." Honestly, I think that was the biggest catalyst for the massive shift that I've had in myself because yeah, I'm yeah, I love who I am now. And I
Mhm.
think that was one of the and having the I don't even know, not strength, but the ability to actually say, "Okay, honey, I'm taking an evening to myself and I'm leaving. You got the kids." Getting to that point was all of the work
Yeah.
in mastery, and then going and doing it and feeling that empowerment, and then, "Oh, I like this." And I ran with it. So,
I love
yeah,
that.
yeah.
We're gonna have to get you to do some archery at the next retreat.
Deal. It's,
You're gonna
oh
be
my
the
gosh,
archery instructor.
I'm obsessed. I love it.
And it's just like, isn't it weird how these moments, like these people in our lives, trigger the crap out of us, like these buckets? And when we're like, I need to repair this relationship, or I need to figure this out, or I need to scale, like it's not this, not this, not this. And then we do the work, and literally what is happening is we are like coming back home to ourselves. And the whole kind of like people are like, what do you do? Like, what do you teach people? And I'm like, well, I'm going to tell you in a sentence and you're going to look at me and be like, WTF? Like, what'd you just say? But really, it's about coming back home to yourself. Like, the secret everyone is searching for is like, how do you want to feel? Become that person, and everything else will fall into place. But that seems too simple
Yeah.
on paper. On paper, it's
Yeah.
emotionally uncomfortable to integrate.
Yes.
So,
But
what would you go ahead? What?
but magic when you do.
Yeah. So, what would you say to that version of you who kept telling me, I'm going to join Mastery someday. I'm going to join Mastery someday. I'm going to join Mastery someday. What would you say to that version of you now?
Oh, would you just do it already?
What were you afraid of?
Oh gosh. Well, a big piece of it was spending money on myself.
Mm.
And as you know, money was a very big issue or topic, heated
Growth
topic.
opportunity.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so many things. Just fear, straight up. Fear of yes, fear of investing in me and
And what did that mean to you? Like investing in you? What did that represent?
taking time away from my kids. I thought I was it's funny because now I realize just how much being a quote unquote good mom is taking that time for me, but back then I didn't realize it. Um yeah, I thought I was, being selfish, wanting to work on me because I needed to pour everything into my children.
Mhm.
But how do you give from an empty cup? right? And mine was beyond, it was bone dry
Mhm.
at that point. So yeah, no, I would just believe in that blonde lady on the podcast
Blonde
because
lady on the internet. Yeah.
yeah, because yeah, she uh yeah,
Do you
just
s-
do it.
do you see now how culturally we have this belief and narrative that we're told that giving to yourself is selfish? But
Mm.
can you see now how not considering yourself as a human being is actually incredibly selfish, and how modern parenting is incredibly selfish and egotistical?
Oh,
Are you I was going to say, are you at that point yet? Cuz like
oh,
when
so much so.
yeah, I'm like, wow, if I didn't do this work, like I actually could suffocate my children with my controlling behavior based on modern culture and expectations. And like
So much.
we say they need to be outside. We say this, we say that. And it's like, but we've created a culture where they don't even have the opportunity to do that anymore. And so,
Mhm.
oh yeah, I'm like unconscious living in general, doesn't matter if it's parenting or marriage or whatever. Unconscious living is incredibly egotistical and self-centered.
Oh yeah, so much so.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Angela. So, and I know jumping into mentorship after mastery. So we had a lot of women, I'm just telling the listeners, be like, okay, this process has changed my life. I want to give back. And so you became a mentor. You've had the opportunity to mentor a few people so far. Um, I know that has challenged you to the next level too. So what is it like when you're like doing this work on yourself, like in your own life, and then you become a leader of it? Like, oh shit, next level. Heather's watching me now.
Yeah, definitely next level. Um, the is it accountability? I don't accountability isn't the right word, but just y- showing up in a different way. Because there's one way to show up for yourself and your family, and then being being able and learning how to hold that space for somebody else. And I'm still working on the silently being in the room with somebody, because I'm not a very silent person. I do love to talk all the time. But yeah, just being comfortable in that space. That's next level learning, next level, getting uncomfortable with my own and looking at like, okay, why am I uncomfortable with that? So it's another layer to pull back. Um, but having to do that work on myself to be at the level I need to be to support somebody is, again, it's helping me
Yeah.
to grow. And yeah, it's been a journey.
Angela's like, new level, new devil. That's for sure. So this is one day everyone comes back to me. This is inevitable. People come back years later. Like, yes, they're still in the process, but years later, like something just happened, like on Instagram, someone tagged me and she worked with me like 5 years ago and just randomly tagged me. And I'm like, I haven't heard from you for 5 years. And she's like, your program changed my life. And you just never know the impact you make in someone's life by holding that space or leading a certain way. So the work you're doing now, Angela, like when I don't want to get out of bed, and all you guys have heard me say this, when I'm like, I just want to give up some days, it's like, I can't, because I know that there's people that depend on me. And I don't mean my team, it's like there's a bigger mission, right? So, like, I don't get to give myself a back door because there's just a bigger mission at play. And it is uncomfortable. We're all like in it together, but what's the alternative? Like, feeling like shit rolling back down the hill. And
Yeah.
I had a moment actually today before we recorded this where I went out with my son, my oldest, and I was like, this is freedom when I could be like, hey, let's go for a 20-minute walk. Like, I have space. And, he's telling me things. And in my head, I'm literally coaching myself. And I'm like, keep your fucking mouth shut, Heather. Keep your mouth shut. Just listen. Stay in the room. That's what it reminded me of when you just said that. Like, just hold the space. Don't
Mhm.
fix. Don't react. Just hold the space. He just needs guidance. And right now, he just needs space to be held and a listening, non-judgmental ear. Um, and so we're learning these skills. We always get the opportunity to flex these muscles, whether it's
Yeah.
in this program or in our home. So Angela, thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome, Heather.
Thank you for being you. What are you, what are you really proud of? I know we've talked a lot about what you've cultivated and created, but like, what are you really proud of?
Well, I'm proud of me.
Yeah.
I'm proud of finally being who, I don't want to say who I was meant to be, but just finding myself again, finding my energy and my light and my loudness and my silliness and not caring what other people think. Um, yeah, I'm proud of the process and the work. I'm proud of my kids. I'm proud of my husband, everybody who I've met in the community, the beautiful women, you. Yeah, it's just, yeah, I'm proud of me.
I love that. That's the goal, is to make yourself proud. We always want these external goals and things, and those are nice, but that's like the icing on the cake. It goes so much deeper than that. So thank
Yeah,
you, Angela. And
thank
what
you.
I'm going to ask you this last question. What is like next, like your next level vision? Something that's on your wouldn't it be nice list that maybe you want to declare out loud that I'm going to hear?
Oh boy. Um, I'm I'm still trying to figure that out, to be completely honest. I feel like I'm at a ceiling
Mhm.
and I need to like break through. Um, I honestly I'm not 100% sure. Like I love I love the environment that I'm in at our clinic and my clients, and it's like half therapy, half massage therapy. I love that piece. I love supporting other women. I don't know what that vision really looks like yet. So I'm working on continuing to hold space for other people
Mhm.
and flex those muscles. And yeah, I don't know. The sky's the limit. I don't know yet.
Yeah. And sometimes there's times when we need to push, and then there's times where we just need to simmer. So now that I know, I'll be asking. I'll be asking. I'm just kidding. Maybe like a naked archery photo shoot.
Well, it's the thing is, I wanted to do a boudoir one, but
Put some archery in there.
yeah, like archery is always in there because I love it so much. I was thinking like archery therapy, um, or because I felt like such a warrior woman that first time when I went back to archery, and that's been stewing. But then, there's my cycle syncing that I love to talk about, and
You
there's,
never know.
yeah, there's so many things, but
I love it.
yeah.
Thank you, Angela.